The evening began like countless others before it. Low lights, quiet music humming from a speaker in the corner, and the warm scent of wine and roasted chicken drifting through the room. I had barely settled into my seat when I heard her laugh, bright, effortless, unmistakable. Samantha. Her smile carried a kind of easy charm, mischievous enough to pull strangers in without trying. "Don't let your husband stop you from finding love," she teased, tossing the line carelessly over her shoulder. The comment hit me like cold water. I forced a small laugh, keeping my voice controlled. "Funny," I said, letting just a hint of sharpness slip in. "I'm already married." Her laugh faltered, just a touch off-key. Her eyes darted to mine, curious, assessing. "Married? I had no idea," she said, her tone instantly gentler. I watched the subtle change in her expression. Samantha loved to play, but she wasn't cruel. Still, something about tonight felt like walking into a room with too many open doors. Any one of them could lead somewhere I didn't intend to go. "I'm serious," I added, leaning my weight against the table. "I have a wife, and she expects me to be fully present. Fully committed." A shadow crossed her features, embarrassment mixed with something else, a spark of intrigue. "Oh," she murmured. "I didn't mean." "It's fine," I cut in softly. "People flirt, they push limits. But tonight I need things to be clear." She nodded, laughing under her breath. "Honesty," she echoed, like she was trying the word on. "Got it." The rest of the evening passed in easy conversation, polite smiles, harmless gestures. Yet underneath it all, a quiet tension hummed, an awareness that her natural charm could slide over a line if I wasn't careful. I sipped my wine, watching her from the corner of my eye. She was magnetic, that much was undeniable. But my life wasn't a story she could rewrite with a flippant joke. Still, I couldn't ignore the pull. The way her expression shifted, the tilt of her head when she laughed. Temptation rarely arrives loudly. More often, it knocks softly, dressed in innocence. By dessert, I knew the rest of the night depended on my choices. Set firm boundaries, or allow curiosity to lure me into complications I wasn't prepared for. My grip tightened slightly on my fork, a reminder of the promises I'd made long before tonight. After the plates were cleared, Samantha leaned back, swirling a lock of hair around her finger, eyes sparkling with that same familiar mischief. "You're really serious about being married, aren't you?" she asked, light tone but probing underneath. "I am," I answered, steady and unshaken. "Some things aren't jokes." Her smile faltered again, and for the first time I saw something genuine flicker behind her eyes. Interest, frustration, maybe even a hint of respect. "You're different," she said quietly. "Most men wouldn't bother saying any of that." I shrugged and took a sip of water. "Different how?" "You actually follow your own rules. You have principles." She leaned toward me, elbows resting on the table. "Most people do whatever feels good in the moment." Her words hung between us. And suddenly I understood. She wasn't testing me out of cruelty, but curiosity. Admiration, even. Admiration for someone who didn't bend easily. Flattering, yes. Dangerous, absolutely. "I need you to understand," I said calmly. "My marriage matters. What my wife and I have isn't play. It's real. I'm not interested in crossing lines." Samantha studied me, head tilted, as if trying to decode a complicated sentence. "Real. Serious. Respect," she repeated softly. "You make it sound simple." "Simple doesn't mean easy," I replied, meeting her gaze. "But it's worth it." After that, our conversation drifted into safer topics, still warm, still friendly, but with a quiet understanding now settling between us. Boundaries set. Lines no longer blurred. The evening had started casually enough, work chatter, mutual friends, and weekend plans filling the air. But beneath the surface, an unspoken tension lingered. Every laugh, every look, every small gesture seemed charged, a quiet reminder that boundaries were fragile and that charm alone could stir feelings that didn't belong. By the end of the night, I walked Samantha to her car. The streets were hushed, the city lights shimmering on the wet pavement from a light drizzle earlier. She paused at the door and looked up at me, You're really married, she murmured, almost under her breath. Yes, I said, my voice steady. And happy to be. A small, respectful smile appeared on her face, though there was a hint of wistfulness. Good for you, she said softly, and slid into her car. I watched her drive off, feeling both relief and a lingering undercurrent of tension. The night had skirted boundaries it shouldn't have, but I had stood firm. Some lines, I reminded myself, were worth holding, no matter how tempting it might be to cross them. The following morning, I found myself replaying the previous night in my mind. The words, the glances, the subtle tests of limits. Samantha's energy had been intoxicating, undeniably so. Yet I knew clearly where I belonged, and it wasn't in chasing passing thrills. By mid-morning, I was seated at the kitchen table with a warm cup of coffee, sunlight spilling over the counter. Rachel entered, and her presence immediately filled the room in a way no fleeting charm ever could. She looked at me, curiosity in her eyes. You seem thoughtful, she said, a small smile lifting her lips. I've been thinking, I admitted lightly, careful not to sound heavy, about choices, priorities, what really matters. She settled across from me, setting her mug down with care, tilting her head expectantly. And us? I said, voice calm, meeting her gaze. Us. What we've built together. Last night reminded me that some temptations are just that, tests. Tests to see if we'll protect what matters most. Her lips curved into a soft, knowing smile. I'm glad you passed, she said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. Not everyone would. I squeezed back, a wave of relief washing over me. Outside, the city moved on in its usual hum of life, but in that quiet kitchen, I felt anchored. My life, my marriage, and my commitments were about more than fleeting allure or harmless games. They were about trust, honesty, and a shared past. Later that day, I ran into Samantha again while picking up groceries. She offered a polite smile, devoid of flirtation or probing. Hey, she said softly. Everything okay? Better than okay, I replied, warmth in my voice but distance intact. She nodded, her expression a blend of understanding and perhaps respect. Good for you, she said once more and walked away. I watched her go, feeling the last flickers of temptation dissolve, replaced by clarity and calm. That evening, I returned to Rachel. We shared a quiet dinner, laughter filling spaces that had felt heavy with tension just a day before. There were no dramatic revelations, no confrontations, only two people who had faced subtle tests and emerged stronger. Life sometimes presents moments of temptation and challenge. It's not about never noticing them. It's about seeing them clearly, confronting them honestly, and choosing what truly matters. Tonight, I chose what mattered most. Outside, the city lights shimmered and flickered in time with distant traffic. Inside, the warmth of home wrapped around us, a quiet reminder that some boundaries, once drawn, are worth preserving forever.